been.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadamonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
I didn't even ask you if you were ready, Kenton. I could tell you were ready to talk about it. You were ready. We're both ready. It is so exciting that the Book of Boba Fett has come and gone. Or should I call it The Mandalorian Season 2.1? What do we call this?
It's almost like, I heard some people say it was like a teaser for Season 3, but I think it's like the first episode.
It is. Pretty much. It was an episode of The Mandalorian disguised as an episode of the Book of Boba Fett because there was no Boba Fett in this one, and it was amazing.
It was amazing. It was like the best Star Wars ever kind of thing. Like it rose to the level of best Star Wars ever, I'd say. Best Star Wars, like the best recent Star Wars for sure, among the best Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
Like just endlessly entertaining and delightful all the way through. And I think a lot of people are like, well, what does it say about Boba Fett that this got hijacked? And they're like speculating that no one liked Boba Fett, so they inserted this episode. It's like, no, this was part of the plan. This is part of the plan. This was like in the can forever ago. And what I like about it is it's a creative risk that could have backfired horribly. That could have been a nightmare in terms of sidetracking what we thought was happening, but it's not. It ended up being like, it's a mic drop, many mic drop moments. Once again, I think what we have going on here is two journeys at the same time, and maybe more than two, but that's what we're seeing, and they're unfolding at different paces because that's how journeys work.
Exactly.
So I don't take. I also noticed the Hollywood Reporter guy also said, "Best episode ever." What does it say about the Book of Boba Fett as a show, as a character? Like, what it says is "shove it up your ass," is what said, because it's good. This was the plan all along.
Absolutely it was. Yeah. And you know that, we'll talk about the content of the episode in a second, but you know that at the end of all this season of the Book of Boba Fett, we're going to get a teaser continuing with whatever happened in this episode on. We might see the next step of what we think is going to happen. And then it's going to be next Christmas in December 2022, which basically means the end of December. So 2023, really. But 1 year from now, we will be watching the season 3 of the Mandalorian. And God, I missed it. I didn't know how much I missed this show until I watched this episode, until the moment where he steps through that curtain. And I love that we open in this, like, it's like the equivalent meat packing plant. It's like Schneider's for Star Wars, right? That's what we're doing here.
It's Rocky. It's Rocky for Star Wars.
I thought of Rocky. I thought of the sides of meat. Yeah, and Rocky for sure. Lots of great imagery there, which is, and again, this aspect of seeing this part of Star Wars that we've never seen before. Like, these have to exist in the Star Wars universe. We've just never seen it. And so we see him walk through those, like the plastic curtain or whatever those things are.
That was a mic drop moment right there. I mean, did you think it was Boba Fett behind the curtain?
No. I knew it because, and then here's the thing. I mean, the episode, the summary is always very vague, and it said an unexpected ally emerges. I'm like, he wasn't unexpected. We knew he was coming. You teased him in the last episode. We knew it was, and I could see the glint on his armor. I could tell it was shiny. I could tell it was Mando.
I was just like, oh, we're gonna see what, and then the curtain was already open, where you're like, oh my God, like we're getting right into this. Like,
but I'll tell you this. And then, I mean, obviously, great scene. He walks in there, and he's back to bounty hunting, it seems. So after he gives up, after Luke comes for Grogu, he just goes back to what he knows, which is getting bounties. And he's got his little same kind of stuff we saw him doing in the very first episode, right? He's got his little locator. He's looking for this guy. The guy says he's not him. I completely forgot about the Darksaber until he pulled it out.
Well, I guess I knew he had it, but I didn't. I was surprised. That was another mic drop moment where it was like, what? Like,
I was like, Darksaber! Oh my God! And then
battle, and it's hard. It's hard to use it. That was another surprise.
So I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick up on that yet. I didn't understand what was going on with that because it was all happening so fast. I was just blown away.
Yes, I was too.
That he would, like, I mean, and we know he can take on these guys. Like, I wasn't worried about him in that situation. There's like 5 or 6 guys around him, and I'm like, he can take all these guys, no problem. But I thought he would use the multitude of weapons he already had. has, not the Darksaber, which he went right for. Like that was the first thing he pulls out, and just so cool. And even though he's having trouble with it, even though he slices his leg in the process, takes out all those guys, takes off his head, and like walks out with a decapitated head. So that's a little gory for Star Wars, but no blood.
Yeah.
So whatever.
But it was an intense scene. And it showed us, and it was the beginning of answering a lot of questions for us that we had at the end of the Mandalorian season. We got a lot of answers.
Catches us up on what happened since the last episode, right?
Yeah, a lot of answers in this episode, and that was one of them right away. We're like, oh my, like it was so much off the top, and then I didn't dare think that we were going to cut between that or that we weren't going to do anything other than, cut between that and Boba Fett. I was like, that scene's going to end, and then we're going to go back to Tatooine to see what Boba Fett's up to, and we're going to like cut between the two. Oh, but no, we did not. And we had a single unbroken shot. I think it's unbroken. I'm going to have to watch it again, of him walking across the ring planet. The ring or whatever that is.
Ring World, okay? Ring World. And I gotta say this because I read Ring World by Larry Niven when I was a teenager, very young. It was one of the first kind of hard science fiction books that I've read. So the idea of a ring world, and this is, I know we don't ever see the full ring here, but you know it continues on, right? You can tell, and you can see the shadows, like these shadows. That's to simulate night and day. Like this is a thing that scientists have come up with and thought of, like as something that could happen, that someone could build. It's an incredibly like engineering feat, like an unknown engineering feat, but that's what this is a ring world. So I was just like, ring world. It was again another mic drop moment. I was blown away by this shot, and then this shot of him walking across, and then you're right, I think it is unbroken, but he's kind of limping through the square here. And
we get a good look at the place while he's making his way. He takes an uncomfortable elevator ride.
That was great. I love that.
With an alien, who looks at him. And then he looks at the alien looks away. It's like good stuff. And that's not the first time. That won't be the last time, I should say, that an alien looks at him in the episode. So it's like a sort of like a hint of things to come.
Yeah.
And that walkthrough, and I was like my jaw was already hanging. I was like, look at the effects on this show. We're off Tatooine on this show.
Yes. And maybe that was part of it, right? Maybe it was just so refreshing to see something other than sand that we've been seeing every week on this show. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah, and then of course he comes back. He's got the head. He wants to collect his, but it's not just about the bounty we learn. It's about information. He's looking for, as it turns out, the other Mandalorians that I completely forgot about from season 1.
They weren't in season 2.
No, exactly.
So it was like we kind of thought we might never see them again.
Right. Yeah. So he goes and he goes down Kalzok Alley I'm looking at it right now, between the heat vents or something like that. So he's got to find, it's a secret passageway. And this is all very cool. Again, this whole sequence is just like so amazing. The design on these sets, or I'm sure it's all CGI or whatever, but it still looks super cool.
I forgot about his predator vision.
Yes.
He turns out that he can turn. I forgot all about it.
Yes.
So when he turned it, and actually the first time I watched it, I didn't notice it. The second time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, there it is!" Like I was so in awe of what we were watching, I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, he just needed to be pointed in the right direction, and then the secret signs on the walls help him find where it is. And he climbs down the chute, and now he's like underneath the ring world. You know, like he's on the outside of the ring world, which somehow is like still not in space. I'm not sure how that works, but he's clearly hurt. Like this is a serious injury he's got in his leg this whole time. He's falling. Right as he comes in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I was a bit worried there just because he seemed to have sustained a pretty bad injury at the Darksaber, and I was a little bit worried that we were going to see some. We're going to have to replace this leg with a robot leg. I was a little worried that he was looking for the medical something or other. It didn't even occur to me that when he walked in there that we were going to get what we got.
Yes, exactly. And I got to
didn't know.
say, I thought what we would get, one of the things I thought is that we might get some flashback for the Mandalorian, where he has to get into a Bacta tank to fix his leg, and then we get the flashback for what's happened since the last episode, or what he's been doing. That's kind of what I thought we would get, right? Like that would fit in the formula of the Book of Boba Fett, because that's exactly what this show's been so far. But no, we get, now, I should know their names. Damn it, I should know their names by now.
The Armorer.
The Armorer.
And the asshole Mandalorian.
Otherwise known as Jon Favreau, right?
Is that Jon Favreau?
I think that's Jon Favreau. Yes, I think that's the one.
No, is that the guy?
I think it is, because it's not credited.
Really?
He's not credited, and I have an issue about that. I'll talk about in a second. But he falls down the stairs. She notices. She turns around, and I'm pretty sure that's Jon Favreau. He just doesn't have his gun. Like he had a giant gun.
I thought he was a different one, but
right.
Hey, whatever. It's another Mandalorian, and
regardless,
he's a big jerk.
Yeah,
as we find out. But we'll get to that in a second. But what I like about this scene, well, first of all, when I saw the Armorer again, another mic drop moment, jaw drop moment, mic drop moment. Like what the hell? We've already got Mando, we've got Darksaber, we've got the Armor. Like, oh my God! Like what else? Like now, now they could have shown anything. Could have shown me a blank screen after that, and I would have been happy. But then we get a lot of exposition, answering questions about what's been going on, and there is quite a bit. There's lots of stuff that's been going on that we kind of need to know about.
Yeah, some of it was repetitive, though. He did kind of repeat it. He did kind of summarize what happened last season. Last season on The Mandalorian, he kind of told them what happened. We know that he completed his mission. He returned Grogu to his family, and then he shows her the Darksaber and says he got it from Moff Gideon. Talks about that, right? And then we get more information about the Darksaber, which is what we actually need in this scene.
Well, and I wrote this down because I'm pretty sure, but I wrote it down in a hurry. So correct me if I'm wrong. And that is the Armor says that talks about the what's it called? Not the premonition. Talks about the
the destruction of the purge or whatever they call it.
No. Well, she goes, there are those who say, well, she talks about who created the Darksaber, and the person was a combination of Jedi and Mandalorian. And so that they sort of plant that idea, which is pretty interesting. And then she says, one will fight 20, I think she says, before the multitudes will follow him. So basically we're next season of The Mandalorian going to see him with the Darksaber, and he will have to fight 20 to become the ruler of Mandalore, and I'll bet you those 20 aren't easy fights. Like I'll bet the
well, this is we're gonna get 20 different 20 different badass Mandalorians, each one of them like equivalent to Boba Fett, pretty much. He's gonna have to take them all down. I thought the exact same thing. That's exactly what I thought as well. One warrior will be 20 is what I wrote down. Yeah.
We also find out that Moff Gideon is alive, that he is being held by the New Republic, and that they could put him to death for his crimes, but in the meantime, they're interrogating him. And so I thought about him, and I was like, in the next Mandalorian, he will be like Hannibal Lecter, maybe behind the glass, or maybe he will escape, or maybe the stupid New Republic will say, you have atoned for your crimes, and let that little weasel go. Because they kind of implied, like, why didn't you kill him? In fact, they even said, like, is he alive?
She did not seem very impressed about that. No. Yeah, you're right. She's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. You should have killed him. And I just want to add, before we move on, I just want to add the funniest thing is just watching this in with the subtitles on, so I could kind of get the sense of what she's saying while we're talking. And they actually, she said, you have to win it by creed, unless it's won by creed and capitalized creed. So I'm taking that as to meaning Scott Stapp has to come in here and take me higher. Sorry, that's a bad 90s joke. But anyway, it has to be one. So it is his saber. He is because he won it. He won it in battle. So it is his. And then they have a further conversation about the staff, again, recapping the last season of The Mandalorian. So now we have this Beskar staff.
And she said, that's not as noble. Although it didn't make sense. Like, you can only use stuff for defense. Meanwhile, here, I'll make you these missiles.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, I didn't really hold a lot of water, but fine. We'll melt down the spear because that means you can give Grogu a present, and it's either a helmet, a chainmail shirt, a necklace with the Mandalore logo on it. What do you think it is?
Well, I think I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a helmet. I'm like, please make him a helmet. I want Grogu to have a helmet with his little ears sticking out of it. That would be so cute. Well, I've certainly seen. I'm sure I've seen toys with him with a helmet on. I think, or something. Somebody did a design or something. Yeah. There is an image out there of Grogu with a Mando helmet on. I thought about the ball he holds, like the little ball that he likes to hold. Maybe it's like something like that. I think it will have like the family insignia on it in some way because he feels like Grogu is his family. That is his son. It's very clear that that's how he thinks of him. I wasn't 100% sure on that at the end of the season. Like that's how far that relationship had gone. But at this point, it's very clear that he thinks of Grogu as family and that he intends to see him again. Like that's not. I never thought. Again, I wasn't sure if we'd ever see Grogu again. But yeah, he's going to be back.
Well, I like that the armor provides a gift wrapping service. And I also like that the wrapping of the little cloth looks like Grogu's head, which I think probably made some people shed a tear. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And gave us hope that in the very next episode, as early as that, we could see Grogu. Now, I was thinking like it could happen off camera. I don't think they can do that.
Oh no,
though, because I think it's pretty hard to like take one of the most popular Star Wars characters in recent memory, Grogu, and suggest that I'd like to bring this to him and then not have it happen in the next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I think would be, oh my God, people would just be losing their minds unless I thought at the end of Book of Boba Fett, they say, the next season 3 of The Mandalorian starts next Tuesday or some like surprise.
Oh, that would be awesome, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. So anyway, I just like how they set that up. And I
didn't think of that. I thought that was I thought that was going to be, we had to have to wait for the next season of The Mandalorian to see Baby Yoda. I did not expect it to come next episode.
You could be right. It could go either way. But
I think people would be upset. I think you make a good case for that though. And he does, like, if they didn't want to do that, they wouldn't have had him say the line. Like, it's just one line at the end where he says, I have to bring this to a friend. Like, we know that he's got this present that eventually he's going to get. At this point in the show, the episode, I was like, okay, he's going to bring this to him next season. That's what I thought. Maybe. But anyway, we'll get to that part in a second. There's just so much to talk about here.
We also got an update on Bo-Katan.
So when's your next class? We might run a little long.
No, we're all right. We're all right. Okay. My class is at 1. So
okay, good.
Bo-Katan,
right.
She has a claim to Mandalore. And we found out at the end of The Mandalorian that she could not. He's like, here, take it. Like, here, you can have it.
Well, doesn't all that stuff happen in that way? Yeah, that all happens in Clone Wars, right? In the animated series.
No, the last. Remember the last episode of The Mandalorian season 2? He's like he gets it off Moff Gideon, and in the end she goes, "You have the Darksaber." He's like, "Yeah, you can have it." She's like, "No, it doesn't work that way. The person must be defeated in battle." She says to him.
Bo-Katan said that?
Yes, she says that.
Well, then how did Bo-Katan get it, though? I thought they were describing something that happened in Clone Wars.
Well, she got partially. She had a claim to the throne because of her birthright, not because she won the Darksaber, because of her birthright. And so she wanted the Darksaber, I guess, to make it
so official. She'll be one of those 20. She'll be one of those 20 people, basically.
And I think that's where this is going.
Yeah.
But it also sounded like, once again, the armor didn't have so Bo-Katan is the leader, and that's when we got the Great Purge flashback. Mm-hmm. So Bo-Katan oversaw, like they said that she jinxed Mandalore essentially by not having the proper claim to the throne, by winning the Darksaber in a way in battle the way you're supposed to, and just claiming it because of bloodline, and that brought the Great Purge, which we then see a flashback to, and that's incredible. Terminator, back to Terminator.
Pretty much.
K2SO is an asshole.
Well, and this really speaks to like this period of time between episodes 3 and 4 that we haven't seen a ton of, and I guess they're trying to build out here a little bit because this does have K2SO and it does have probe droids.
Yeah.
So it is very much Empire era. This is no longer the whatever it was called before. I can't remember. The Republic, but yeah, and that was, you're right. They're just like the Terminator robots, just like land, like post-apocalyptic world, flames and smoke, and it's all awful, big explosions. And then so we get the breakdown of this group's religion, and this group's, they feel that they are preserving the right way of the religion, their Mandalorian religion, and that Bo-Katan and the others are not practicing it properly, and they've strayed away from the ways of the Mandalore, right?
Yeah. And well, once again, the armor gives us, and later on she does the same thing. We'll talk about that in a bit, but she provides her explanation and her view of what happened. And clearly, if Bo-Katan was there'd probably be another side to that story.
Right.
I was guessing, and we already know that that the armor is fundamentalist. Keep the helmet on, whereas Bo-Katan's like, "What? You believe in that cult?" So we already had that in the Mandalorian. So there's a difference of opinion about that. Did you like the flashback? Did you like the Great Purge flashback?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was great to see. Great to see all those Mandalorians dying. So then we move on to him training with the Darksaber. And this is where we learn, this is where I guess I clued into the fact that he, or what, is there something else?
One other thing. And that is, I thought she mentioned, or he mentioned, that Grogu is with his own kind. And so that could go one of two ways. When I first watched this episode, I thought that he had already finished his training with Luke and that the Mandalorian had already delivered him to his species.
Oh.
With the second time I watched it, I was like, no, she means Jedi. Did you take that to mean one or the other?
I took it to mean Jedi. I just took it to mean that I didn't think that he would be back with the rest of the Yodas.
Not yet. Too early. Too soon.
Too soon, dude. Planet of Yodas is like season 5 of Mandalorian. No, actually, I have some ideas about where the Mandalorian will go, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so do I, definitely.
Yeah. So
we get to the fight.
Yeah, he's training with the Darksaber first, right? And so I realized anyway that wound was like because it was too heavy, because he can't wield it. I don't really get. She's not a very good instructor, really. She's like, what does she mean? Like, stop resisting the blade, or whatever she says. Like, come on,
the blade. You're fighting the blade.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, he seems to understand what she's saying. He gets it. And I was like, that's good enough for me. I mean, if he doesn't ask for clarification, that's his problem.
I know.
If his assignment is to stop fighting the Darksaber and he doesn't ask questions in class, then that's his problem.
Yes, exactly. Okay, there we go. Right. I feel you. All right. And then so they talk about that more, and he's like, I can't. Let's try again. And she's like, again, things we say sometimes is that, I can't remember the line. Oh, it's so good though. Something without understanding is, right? Do you remember that?
No, I did not write that
Okay,
down.
let me get it. Fighting against your opponent. Stand up. Hold on, I'm just reading off the subtitles here. Grunts, crackling. Oh, he drags it across the floor. So cool. Solus, grunting. Todd. N, both grunting. And then the Mandalorian panting. And then he can't do it. No. Oh, and she bangs him on the head. No. She comes back at him. There, feel it. You're too weak to fight the Darksaber. You will win if you fight against it.
You are fighting against the blade.
Here it is. Persistence without insight will lead to the same outcome. That is the line I'm going to use now. Persistence without... Now I've missed it again.
Without insight will lead to the same outcome.
That's a great line. I love that line. So then after all that, we have asshole Mandalorian show up and say, maybe somebody else should have it. Maybe I should have the Darksaber. And he challenges him to combat.
My uncle built it. My uncle built the Darksaber, or whatever.
That's right. He has some kind of claim to it. His family tree. Somebody in his ancestry.com profile made the Darksaber. And so
I have to say that Mandalorian just came off like the biggest jerk, like the schoolyard bully.
Well, I don't know. The whole time I thought it was Jon Favreau. So I was picturing Jon Favreau in there. And that changed my outlook on him.
Well, hey, look, I don't think so. I think Jon Favreau was he was the infantry Mandalorian.
All right.
And I think this was an asshole Mandalorian.
All right.
But maybe they merged and they became one Mandalorian. I don't know. Like it did not even occur to me that it could be him.
Okay.
So now I'm like, okay, I don't know. So I don't know. We're gonna have to I'm sure, and we probably
It'll come out
would've
at some
seen-
point.
Yeah, we
Well, here's the
probably
thing:
would've seen
the
people
role was
talking
not
about it.
credited. Maybe this is where I talk about the issue of like most of the cast of this episode was uncredited because
That's
it was
right.
cameos. And come on, is a cameo still a cameo if you're the only thing in the episode? Like
You have to be credited, and there was also something else later on that happened where I was like, "Who's this?" And then when I found out, I was like, "Oh." I was really interested. So it's kind of like, yeah, I would like the name of the actors, all of the actors,
Yes.
and those credit because they gave precious few.
Yeah, so
They
that's
gave
why I
precious
thought this
few.
guy was important. That's why I thought it was
Yeah.
Jon Favreau's because it wasn't credited. So they fight, and it's a good fight. It's a great
good
fight.
fight.
It's a really interesting. And what I thought exactly, because regardless of if it's Jon Favreau in the armor, Jon Favreau wrote this episode. He's producing the series. He came up with all of this.
Mhm.
And to me, I felt like this is Iron Man again. This is full circle for
Oh.
Jon Favreau, right? Didn't it
even
remind you of
occur to
Iron Man? No.
Now that
Seeing
you
those two
say
guys
it, now that
fighting,
you
the
say it.
armored suits fighting, it reminded me of the first Iron Man movie when he's fighting the what's his name, Jeff Bridges.
You know, there's one big difference, and that's Pepper Potts will never don a Mandalorian outfit.
Well,
If I have any say in this, Pepper Potts will never be a Mandalorian. All right? She's
Yes, okay, fine.
too busy selling cheap crap.
I feel like we should move along faster. We're so not getting to the best part of this episode right now, but it was so good. It was also
It
good.
was so good. Yeah, it was like the best Star Wars ever. How are you supposed to speed through the best Star Wars ever? You can't do it.
So this is where it comes to a head where they learn, they do their little creed, they fight, he beats them without the Darksaber, I should add, with a little blade, a little vibro blade, so it shows he's like much better than this guy. And then they start the creed. What is it? Again, I should get this line right. Has your helmet ever been removed? Has anybody ever removed it from you? No. And then he doesn't answer. Doesn't answer. Awkward.
He goes, "Can I have a moment to think about my answer?" No, he doesn't say that.
Not in the last week. Can I answer that way? This is the way.
He's like, only 3 times in 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I think it's maybe 3 or 4 times.
Well, it was really in that one cafeteria scene, right? That was the main time.
No, well, then at the end of season 1, when he needed the medical attention.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
IG-11
well, that
said,
doesn't
"I'm not a
count.
human,
I mean,
I'm
that
a
was
droid."
that was a droid.
Yeah, but he knew all the viewers at home would see him. And then also when he said goodbye to little Grogu.
Oh yes,
little
of course.
baby
Yes,
Grogu.
of course. And I want to say, I was at Walmart, I think, and looking through. I always kind of browse through the toy section, and I saw Funko of Din Djarin and Grogu without his helmet on. It's that scene. It's him and Grogu together. And I almost bought it. It's an expensive Funko because it's a bigger one, but I'm like, don't need that one.
So
But
nice.
it's very cute. So it's
Yeah.
cool to know that that's out there. So then they kick him out. They say, no, you got to get out of here. Apostate, they call him. Get out of here, jerk. But they learn that he has to take a bath or something to get redemption.
Well, they say you're no longer a Mandalorian, but if you go into the mines beneath Mandalore in the prancing waters,
Some kind of bathe in some kind of waters. Yeah, you have to go into the waters.
then you can redeem yourself. And he goes, but they've been destroyed. And once again, this is a good. We'll see that in season 3 of the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
That'll
I
be
think that's
good.
going to be the great. And Grogu's going to be with him along the way. Like this is so cool because it's going to be. This is what I think. It's going to be him and Grogu. Like Grogu's going to go off to school for 1 semester. And do his first intro classes to Jediism or whatever they call it, and then during the break he's going to go off with Mando. I always call him Mando. I don't like call him Din. To go off and search for and help him find the thing. So he'll be using his Force powers to help him, and that's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Oh yeah, I mean there's so much exposition in the scene with the Mandalorians, with the 3 Mandalorians. It was just great. I was just eating up all of it. Like. It was hard to, as I say, I needed a second viewing to kind of write it all down. I imagined things, and did I hear that correctly, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
there's
exactly.
a lot in that. There's a lot of great stuff in that.
And all of it good, and all of it I love them building out this canon of the Mandalorians and their history and that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. It really is fascinating.
Oh, it's so good.
So then he has to get off planet and take commercial air travel.
Oh, commercial.
He doesn't have his own
travel,
ship
it's
anymore. His
awful.
ship was destroyed. Yes, it is horrible. He has to go through customs and check his weapons, leading to a hilarious scene.
Oh, it was great. Like, yeah, he puts all, and I thought they were building up to him losing some of his
Me too.
weapons.
I thought they
particularly-
kind of focused. Maybe something happened while he was on the flight that we'll see later, but I felt like they put a little bit too much weight on this. I expected the darksaber to not be there, to be honest, when he opened it up
Yeah,
again.
me too.
But maybe that was just a false kind of a red herring, you know?
It was
like
a joke.
It was a
good
joke, yeah.
And it was basically Jon Favreau saying, God, I hate the TSA. I hate them. When I got to go through there and they're
That's
like,
right.
whatever.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Put it in the case. Put it
Yeah.
in the case. Like, if you want, oh yeah. And then the droid said, if you want, you can talk to my supervisor and I can book you on a flight
Like,
tomorrow.
fine.
And they're like, oh God, fine. I'll just put my stuff in this goddamn suitcase. But then he gets on the flight and we see baby Greedo. Little baby Greedo is looking at and you know what? This scene actually reminded me a bit of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes,
The
yes.
little kids turned around and looking at them.
Well, I
and
mean,
running
we've
up
seen
and
that
down.
happen in so many
Yeah.
movies. Like every
Yeah.
flight scene on every movie has a kid turning around and make faces at the person. It's so funny to see that with a little Rhodian, and we get a little callback
Yeah.
to that later on in the episode, which is hilarious.
And it
as well.
reminds him of little baby Grogu.
Yes, of course. He takes out the
So it's very-
thing,
yeah,
whatever.
it's very
Doesn't
sweet.
unwrap it. It'd be nice if he had unwrapped it and took a look at what it actually was. Don't you think? No, that's not
Well,
going to
he
happen.
saw it. He saw it before it was wrapped, and we did not.
Exactly.
Damn it!
He doesn't need to unwrap it and look at it again.
No, he does not.
So there you go. And then he arrives on Tatooine. He's got to go to Mos Eisley to see Amy Sedaris,
Yes.
who is quickly becoming my favorite character
Oh,
in Star Wars, in modern Star Wars anyway.
so
She's
great.
awesome.
And she's got a shtick where they're chasing a rat around, and she's being helped by pit droids. The little droid from Fallen Order.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the same one or the same.
I think it
kind of
is. I
droid.
think it is BD or whatever they called him. I'm
Right.
pretty sure it's the same one.
So
Um,
and then R5D4 still with the bad motivator on the back. There's a hole in the back of his head where it blew. They still haven't fixed him from A New Hope. And I just love the shtick that she has with the droids, where she's basically running around all day long, arguing and bossing around these droids. And it's like she's the ruler of this little world that she's created, and the droids are even fight among each other to try to please her. It's just so funny.
I'm so reluctant to say this because I feel like somebody's going to do it, but I feel like she needs her own series. Like I'd love to see a sitcom, like a traditional 3-camera sitcom, like a Three's Company kind of thing, where it's just her and the droids. You know, that would be so great. She's just awesome. And I looked up her name here. Peli Motto is her name, and she's great. So Mando comes back to her, and I guess she's got a lead on a ship for him. That's why he's come back.
He mentions it, and she's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, the ship." Like she kind of forgot about the email she sent. She was drunk when she sent it or something. She's like, "What?"
And she clearly,
oh,
she had clearly not done any work on the ship in the meantime because it was just sitting there under a tarp. But yeah, again,
she's just full of hilarious like. What happened to the baby? We could have opened a petting zoo. And like and how much of that stuff does Amy Sedaris improv? There's got to be a lot of it. There's so many funny lines that were just she knocked it out of the park on this one. Like she's got a heart of gold, but she's ridiculous, you know?
She's great at acting against CGI. Like none of those characters are really there. She's doing that.
Right.
I actually think she's going to be an Obi-Wan because she's a Mos Eisley character. She said, "I've always been here." Like I've never been off planet.
I'm a local gal.
She's been on Mos Eisley the entire time. We've saw her back in at least Return of the Jedi era, right? So certainly she could be there earlier than that. So that was awesome. I can't wait to see her again. I hope that we do. Maybe even next episode. Probably next episode.
The shtick is good. The lines are good. The Mandalorian is like dead serious at all times. She is not. She's manic. And you know what I was thinking? Okay, you said a series. I'm like, well, that's probably not going to happen. But I will put money down right now to say that she will go on a mission with Mando. He will take her off
planet. Yes.
Time. They've set it up. It has to happen. And she'll be afraid of space travel. There's going to be a lot of wacky stuff out there. And she is like, he's the serious one. She's the funny one.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. The odd couple in space.
Yes.
Is what I'm suggesting.
The odd couple in Star Wars, basically.
So good.
And then so what she reveals that we have a Naboo fighter. Oh my God. This is it's what Anakin flew in the Phantom Menace. It's what he went, oops. once and blasted everything with when he didn't know what he was doing, just kind of hitting buttons randomly, and he saved the day. It's the ship I hated. I actually hated this ship before. I didn't like the design of it. The yellow is ugly. I hated, and actually also hated the goggles. Last time we watched these, which was just before the holidays, I remember making a note of I hated the helmets and the goggles looked horrible. So this was for me, a hated ship from Star Wars. They managed to make it cool.
Oh my God, they revved it up. They made it. And Jawas can get anything. You just give them a list.
Love it. And somehow she doesn't have to pay them somehow. Like these specific Jawas she has a deal with that
she dated a Jawa and she says they're hairy and she speaks Jawa, but the best part, she goes, they're hairy. Like what's she been doing with her mouth that they're hairy, right? That's, I guess, maybe kissing them, but maybe there's a whole lot of disgusting implications in there. and she embraces it. She delivers it like like she is not joking. She's serious about all of this. And it's so funny. And she doesn't ask questions, and they don't tell her where they got the parts. That's the agreement.
Exactly.
I don't ask, they don't tell.
Yep.
And one of the things that they brought, which has been pointed out online a lot, they bring that long pipe, and they've got a name for it. That is the thing that Han Solo stops the trash compactor with.
Oh, is it? Oh,
long
cool.
thing. Yes, it's the same thing.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Those are the little Easter eggs that are awesome. I love it. And then of course that leads to the building montage. He's like, no, this is stupid. Give me, and that was my reaction too. I was exactly the same reaction. What are you kidding me? This is what they're gonna bring back. This is what is gonna be his new ship. You got to be kidding me. But like that whole building montage, that was amazing. I was just getting more and more excited. Every new shot, every new thing that happened when they're scraping that ugly yellow paint off of it, and he's getting the finish underneath. I'm like, yes, chrome. I was like that guy in Mad Max. Chrome. I just love it. So that was just a great sequence.
I love that montage. I couldn't help my mind from going to the poor people who paid HasLab for the Razor Crest model for whatever, $600 or whatever that was, and just looking at that model and going like, now I need to go get. And so you know what's going to happen, right? That this toy is going to have like such a demand for it, that the thing that nobody wanted, the Naboo fighter, now every collectibles place is dusting off the one that they've got in the back, and now it's going to be $600. That's what's going to happen.
Now, do you think people are going to buy it and then mod it to look like Mando's?
How could you not?
I would love to. That sounds like a great project.
Yes.
I think I might
God, I know. How fun would that be?
But yeah, so they soup it up, they make it like a hot rod. I kind of thought in my mind, I felt like it was, I guess because it's silver, I felt like it was an Aston Martin, like what Bond drives, but I guess it's more along the lines of like a Cobra, like a Mustang Cobra kind of a thing. Like, I don't know, it feels like an American car, really. It feels like it's got these huge engines at the front. It feels like they're like, and how do they manage to make these ships, which are clearly like energy driven, like which doesn't have any moving parts or any sounds really? How do they manage to have these ships have these sounds like an engine, like an internal combustion engine? I don't know, but she said it's purring like a kitten, or no, you hear it purring. I can't remember. This baby's purring, something like that. And of course, and we have to point this out. There's a line about we don't need a droid. I figured you wouldn't. Oh yeah.
So you know who's going to be sitting in
that little Grogu dome. It's a little Grogu dome up there, right?
Oh. Okay, a Grogu dome. How, like, okay, now the demand for those to have one of those models with the Mandalorian sitting in there and little baby Grogu sitting in the dome. I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer. So cool. When we see that, we are going to shit our pants. Forgive the language. I'm swearing too much on this podcast, but
that's what happens when you get excited.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then, so then they bring out the fighter and
he takes it for a test drive.
Oh my God! How about that?
It was really cool. Again, opening it up, and sorry. The one thing I had to say about the engine was that it's all kind of a nod to George Lucas's love of cars, right? That love of hot rods and cars that he had with as a kid, and American Graffiti and all that stuff. And he made that. Like the reason those ships sound like that is because he wanted them to sound like that in the Phantom Menace. Like that's exactly what that is. So it's just all great. You know what it is? It's nostalgia in the fictional world of Star Wars and nostalgia in the real world for us. us. Like it's nostalgia on 2 levels, just pretty crazy. So I love that.
So many mic drops. We had more mic drops that I didn't even mention, but like just it was like gasp, gasp, gasp,
yes, over and over again. And then that shot, and then all those great shots, like him in the cockpit of the, like those shots of him zooming around and people looking at him zooming by, and he takes it through Beggars Canyon. The one thing I didn't notice this, but somebody else pointed that as he goes into Beggars Canyon, there's the wrecked signs on the side, which is where Anakin hit them in the pod race.
Right.
So that's another Easter egg right there. He doesn't go up the side; he goes through Beggars Canyon. We see some womp rats. We see he gets a fun little test drive. Again, the whole sequence is just amazing. I watched it again, like I rewound it and watched it again. Yeah. So I've actually seen that sequence 3 times now. It's so much fun.
It's another shout out to the pod race. A great shout out to the pod race in episode 1. The same course, I think, as the pod race.
Pretty close. Yeah, they're clearly in the area, right? This is like, hey, this is where this happened. So that was the idea. But then he gets pulled over. He goes out. He goes out to space. He sees the kid again. So call back to the to Baby Greedo again. And then he gets pulled over, right? And okay, first of all, the minute you see those, and he gets whatever, you see the siren, and the minute you see those X-wings, I knew who was going to be in one of those ships. Did you?
Well, I just figured one of them was, and that was Kim's Convenience.
Yeah,
as we call him here in Canada, and the other one I just assumed would be Dave Filoni. That's what I thought.
Well, because he was his partner before, right? They were partners before.
But was John MD.
Now, I don't know anything. I've not looked anything up. I don't know any speculation, but to me that looked like Edgar Wright.
It turns out that, because I wanted to know who that was, and for a second, by the way, when there's one shot, and I went, Jesus Christ, is that Brad Pitt? For a second, I thought it was Brad Pitt.
It could have been, right? Exactly, yes.
Right, and I was like, what is happening here? And then it turns out, and I saw it online yesterday, that is the actor who played Luke Skywalker in the last episode of The Mandalorian. That's the guy who was the body double for Luke.
So why not give him a credit? Why not say who he is?
And why the hell, that's a huge thing, first of all. That also implies that he's around to be the body of Luke again. Should we need him in an upcoming episode?
Yes.
Right? And why was Dave Filoni, like, he called in sick that day?
He's working on the Ahsoka series right now.
To me, my only beef was if like Dave Filoni and Kim's Convenience, who's the actor whose name I should know.
I'm going to look it up. Go ahead.
They have been a team, an X-wing team all along. So I really thought that I thought there might even be some reference to him, but there really wasn't. They pulled them over. They pulled over the guy.
But I thought like what was supposed to be a dramatic reveal of Paul Sun Hyung Lee, who's only 4 years older than me apparently, and
means he's 10 years younger than me.
But he who is this? And again, I don't know the character's name in the show, but that whole thing, I'm like, I knew he was going to be there. You didn't need to like do that mystery or whatever the hell they did there, right? That reveal, that was kind of over a little bit much.
Yeah. I mean, in an episode where we were going, wow, that was the least wow.
Exactly. I was not, because I knew it was going to be him.
But
and the fact that
seeing the X-wings is a wow. You don't
exactly
how many wows, Yeah.
But the fact that I'm sitting there wondering who this is, it looks like Edgar Wright. You think it looks like Brad Pitt. We're wondering because there's all these cameos, because there's all these people popping up. They need to like relax on that stuff. Okay, they need to relax about the cameos. Just cast regular people. Don't worry about it. I'm getting too excited about this stuff, and I'm thinking everybody's. But the thing is, the whole cast, like none of that was credited. Neither of those actors were credited.
No.
So why not put them in the I don't understand this. And for Paul Sun Hyung, he's done this role. This is a repeated return, like 3 or 4 times now. He's done this role. Why not give him the credit in the show?
I don't understand that either. And it's not a spoiler because we've seen the episode at that point. The episode is called The Return of the Mandalorian.
Yes.
So like that's a spoiler. right in the title. So I don't see how putting actors' names in the credits, what the argument against that is, unless the actors themselves do not wish to be credited.
Maybe.
And why would that be?
But I think it is, I think they just think it's obviously it's fun to have an uncredited cameo. Like that is something that actors like to do. You see it all the time. Like Brad Pitt did it in Deadpool 2, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff, it's always kind of a little fun. And it is fun when it happens like once in a while here and there when it's a surprise. But when it happens every episode and when you're just kind of like everybody's in Hollywood's doing it on this one show, it just becomes to be a little bit too much. It takes us out of it. Basically, that's what my main complaint is, that it takes us out of it. But otherwise, that was a great scene, and he books it out of there. Like again, I love that sublight thrusters thing where he's like, he didn't turn on his light speed or whatever. He's like, those were his sublight thrusters, buddy. And do you want to file the paperwork on this? Like typical like cop stuff, right? We've seen this before, but still fun in the Star Wars universe.
Cops never want to fill out paperwork is my takeaway from every cop show on TV. They do not wish to do that.
So how does anything get done is my question.
If you can suggest to a cop that what you've done is minor and paperwork will be involved, that pretty much gets you off the whatever beef they have with you in most cop shows, including Star Wars, except in this case, he ran. He pushed the button, and I thought the button wasn't going to work. I thought it was going to be a Han Solo.
Oh, no. I was like, that thing's a hot rod. That's like just, it's out of here. So then he gets back, and then this is like the biggest for me.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. You say it.
Wizard. Wizard.
Awesome. He didn't say it like that. He's like, wizard, like cool.
Yeah, he said
wizard.
It cool. Yeah.
Like that. But that again, so the purpose of this kind of brought it all home. The purpose of this whole episode was to make the Phantom Menace cool. And it did. It made the Phantom Menace cool.
It totally did. And when he said wizard, of course, that's what Annie's little friend said in Phantom Menace. He's like, this is so wizard, Annie. And that was like the nerdiest thing we ever heard. And we're like, this shall never be spoken again. And then the Mandalorian makes it cool. He says it now, like we're all going to say it now because it sounds great. And then that brings us to the end of the show, where I'm embarrassed to admit that when Fennec Shan showed up, I was like, ooh, she's in this show. And then I remembered, oh, it's her show that we're watching.
Finally, a regular cast member comes back. Yes, that's true.
She's on this show. I forgot.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, they brought her back. Like an idiot.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, it really did feel like an episode of The Mandalorian, and it did. Like it's. I think that was intentional. I think they did this deliberately to kind of mark these two sides of this season of the Book of Boba Fett. I think what we're going to get now is now, and he of course says the line, "I have to go visit a little friend, not an old friend, a little friend," which we know that means Grogu. So he's going to go. I assume we're going to see him go to the Jedi Academy, wherever Grogu is. I don't think that means we're going to get a Luke necessarily, but we'll see somebody else involved.
Well, hey, we established in this episode he needs help with lightsaber training. We established that there was a Mandalorian who was also a Jedi.
Yes, you're right. Oh my God, it didn't even occur to me. That didn't even occur to me.
They planted it. They told us that this could happen.
So this is what I think. So you know how like up to this point we've had the two sides of Boba Fett, meaning the flashback in the present, the flashback that brought us between those two things. So now we have one full episode of The Mandalorian. Now we're going to get, for the last two episodes, it's going to be kind of going back and forth between the two. Probably mostly Boba Fett, because that's the main story that we're going to focus on, but it will cut between Mando going to visit Grogu, and we'll get back to Boba in his palace dealing with the Pike syndicate. So that's going to be and there'll be two more episodes of that, and then we're going to get probably an end credit scene at the very end saying, here's a teaser for the next season of the Mandalorian. And then what I think ultimately, well, you go ahead and I'll say what I ultimately think for the Mandalorian.
No, go ahead.
I think looking further down the line for the Mandalorian, as far as like his next quest is to redeem himself for taking off his helmet. So I guess that means he's not going to take off his helmet in the next season.
We'll see, but he will redeem himself, and that could be season 3, could be the last episode, could be the end of the series called The Mandalorian.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think season 4.
Think so?
I think season 4 will be him becoming the leader of the Mandalorian. He'll assume the throne of the Mandalorian. He's going to fight those 20 people and assume the throne. That's going to happen season 3. That's not or season 4. That's not a season 3 thing.
Oh,
because he's got to redeem himself first.
I disagree. That's season 3. I think season 3. That's the end of season 3. where he has ascended to the throne. He is the leader of Mandalore.
And that's
little
it.
baby Grogu is sitting at his side wearing his little helmet or whatever, in the dome eating macaroons.
Or frog eggs.
He loves to eat. So I could imagine that. I could imagine like the ending of Phantom Menace, except all the people standing on the platform are there. And instead of little Annie, we have little Grogu standing there.
Yes.
Doing whatever. Oh, and then the Emperor says, "We will watch you with great interest," he says to Annie. So we'll have some evil person standing there saying the same thing to Grogu, and we'll all go, "No, don't let the evil person hurt Grogu," and that'll set us up for a movie, is what I'm.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know, maybe not. But
well, it is interesting to think in terms like we are so invested in this series now. We are not even thinking about Star Wars movies. Like it's not something that's on my radar at all. I mean, this is probably prompting a lot of people to rewatch The Phantom Menace. If I hadn't just done it last month, I probably would be, looking at that. But that's kind of the idea behind all this, is that it gets people interested in the other Star Wars stuff. But yeah, I guess they're gonna have to ramp. Well, I think maybe it's also because of all of the things happening in the world. Theaters are not doing well right now. Really, everybody's looking at streaming. It's kind of taking over as the major form of media, because movies were, I think, the most popular format for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting thought. You're right. It could be a movie. Very, very possible.
Almost
but I think
like an Avengers Assemble, where you're going to see Ahsoka. And that's going to take place around the same timeline. Obi-Wan will not, and neither will Cassian Andor, but that's okay. Those can be one-offs. But I do imagine you can see sort of like a movie with a big conclusion, or a TV series with a big conclusion with all the stars in it, up against something big, maybe Thrawn, maybe something like that. But however it goes, I think I'm actually more excited about it than like The Rise of Skywalker, which I
for
never
sure.
thought I'd say.
Wow, I mean, at the time maybe, but then now in retrospect, we can absolutely say that. I think again, this was a great episode. Is again possibly the best episode of anything Star Wars related I've seen in the last 10 years, maybe. I don't know. Of the new stuff, this was the best. Like, this is so good. So I can't wait for next week's episode. I just can't get here soon enough. And I'm gonna watch it early because I don't want you texting me anymore and telling me, you said, texts me at 8:30 in the morning. We're gonna have to watch this one again.
Yeah, but that's all it said. I didn't say like I could have meant it's so shitty that we basically go through. I could have meant I could have also meant that there is, and actually I did sort of mean that, which is there's so much detail that you can't just watch it once. Like when I watched it the second time, because I was in so much awe the first time, I missed all kinds of stuff. Like, it was embarrassing actually when I realized how much I missed the first time, just by being a fanboy and being excited about it and going, this is a whole, like, I never would have thought that we would have an episode of Book of Boba Fett without Boba Fett in it. And I think that's okay. And once again, I think it's a risky creative decision that paid off. I think I don't think Boba Fett's a bad show. I think it's a good show. And I just think, like, not everybody's journey is the same, and not every person has the same personality. And so why would we want two stories that are identical? I wouldn't want two stories that are identical. I like the two different stories that we've got. They're great. When we get Ahsoka, that one will be great, I'm sure. I just think they're setting up something pretty special here. And, what we said at the beginning of the year was, or the beginning of Book of Boba Fett was, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point, because it's all been so good. Like it's just been a real, it's been a really great time to be a Star Wars fan. And we thought it was going to be the movies, but it's really this stuff.
What this did for me, first of all, I can't remember if I said this earlier, but it made me realize how much I missed Mando and missed the show. Like, I really so much, and immediately felt like an episode of The Mandalorian, like as soon as we started in that meatpacking plant. But it also emphasized, and I think the buzz, and I haven't, again, not trying to pay attention too much right now, but the buzz around this seems like, and I saw this on TikTok, that Mando is the main guy. People are excited about Mando. We want, like, he is the main, if it's like there's the Skywalker saga and the offshoots. It's like Mando is the Skywalker saga and Boba Fett is the offshoot. But people want to get back to the main saga. They want to know what's going on with Mando and Grogu, and that is what people care about right now. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I heard another podcast today. I don't remember which one, or I was like, give it. I listened to so many, but I heard one today where they suggested that Mandalorian is in the top 10 greatest Star Wars characters of all time. And I sort of thought about it, and I was like, okay, like once you get through like the main characters from the original trilogy, Darth Vader, like the villains as well, and some of those, it'd be like, yeah, I do think. For this era, for sure.
I get you can't compare it to the original characters. I just don't think you can. But for the modern era, certainly.
Yeah.
Modern era, this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, he's a great character. They invented a new character who people are more excited to see than old characters, and we just never imagined that.
Yeah, exactly.
And the movies couldn't do it.
No, JJ couldn't do it.
There's no Poe Dameron fan club.
No, there isn't.
It doesn't exist. Okay?
Well, we don't know. Maybe there's an Oscar Isaac fan club that started an offshoot fan club, but now they're having second thoughts after they saw the Moon Knight trailer. I'm just joking. All right. Anything else we should say before we wrap up? We have gone pretty much an hour. Not bad, actually.
No, I just think it was a stellar Star Wars. So good. Like just it made getting up early in the morning a delight, and it made the day a delight because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I couldn't wait till the end of the day to watch it again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm going to do that next week for sure. So, yep.
Yeah, it was just great. Just a great. Oh, and directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, that's right. Mandalorian director. Again, she's not directed any episodes of Book of Boba Fett, but several episodes of The Mandalorian. So she is experienced in that.
In the first season, it was widely agreed that episode that she directed was not the strongest episode, where Mando is protecting the townsfolk from the AT-AT. And here you go. Like this season, this is like one of the greatest episodes of Star Wars ever made.
I forgot to mention one of my favorite moments is him arguing with the droid as he's trying to repair the ship. BD, like he's like, no. There's something that reminded me of it. I can't remember what it is. Maybe it's just Han arguing with Chewie as they're fixing stuff. But that's just such a Star Wars moment where he's like, no, point it up there. No, look there. And he's like, the droid's not listening to him. Love it.
Yeah, we had the R2-D2 moment too, where he shone the projector and showed him where to put the puzzle piece. Remember that? Okay, the Force Awakens, where everybody stands around slack-jawed when he
look at this, it fits right in there.
Right. And so that didn't ring true. But when the little droid goes, put the piece here, that did ring true. That seems like what a droid could do.
Sure. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there for now, but we'll be back again next week to talk about the next episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Until then, I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
How are you? TK421, do you copy?
Now I